Ava, thanks so much for being here.
It's great to be here.
So let's start first by talking about what the executive order actually requires. The governor issued it last year, I believe in June or early July after the killing of George Floyd. And the perception that I think people have is that it requires municipalities to change the way that their police force operates. And that's both counties in terms of sheriffs, locals in terms of their police. So what are they actually required to do?
The governor issued an executive order that says every municipality in the state that has a police force has to reinvent policing. But what that actually means is a collaborative process where stakeholders from the community come together to talk about how policing works in their community and what changes they'd like to make. The executive order lists a number of things that counties and localities are specifically required to think about, including police tactics, evidence about racial inequality, what sorts of community engagement practices police departments are involved in. And the key thing about the executive order is that what it requires is a process, not an outcome. So it does not say your community has to change policing. It says it has to think about policing and think about whether it would like to reinvent. And the governor's office has said they're not reviewing the substance of these plans that come out. They're reviewing to make sure that the process has been complied with.
So that's what I was going to ask you about. So could a community meet with its stakeholders, with elected officials, the community, and say at the end of all of this, we don't want to change a thing?
Right. In theory, you might think so, but on April 1st, the chief executive of every locality has to submit a certification form. And one of the things, literally one of the boxes that you have to check on that form is to say you have a plan to improve policing. And if you're just embracing the status quo, it's hard to see how you could check that box that says we're going to improve policing. But it will be interesting to see whether the governor's office responds by taking further steps that demand some kind of deeper improvement.
Is it subjective, the idea of improving policing?
Sure.
Could some communities say, because I think the idea that the governor's getting at is consider areas where your police force may not be necessary, or maybe even reduce funding for your police force. Is it subjective in the way that maybe a community could say, yeah, we want to improve our policing, and therefore we're going to add money to the police force and make these patrol communities of color, for example, more stringently?
Right, and I think it's one concern that activists have raised, that the executive order doesn't do enough to push communities to make changes in any particular direction. But the governor's office would say that's part of the design, that this is really designed to help get communities engaged. It's an experiment in a lot of ways, because if you think about how communities work now, they all have local legislatures, whether it's a city council or a county legislature. They all have mayor's offices or whatever the local executive process is. And the executive order consciously chose to go around those existing lawmaking bodies and to create a different new process for creating reform with the hope of incorporating the community. And so I think that the governor's office's approach has been, the goal here is to give the community a voice, not to push communities in any specific direction.
So just moving forward, the deadline is April 1st. You've worked with some municipalities and communities over the past year on their plans, including the city of Albany and others. I'm wondering, because policing is so different in areas of the state, but are there any common themes, I guess, to what you've seen these communities experience?
Yes, and so the Government Law Center has been working with various municipalities, a lot of different places here in the Capital Region. And as you say, communities are so different. If you think about a community like Nassau County, Suffolk County, where you might have a 2,500 officer police force versus Franklin County, where you have 5 or 6 officers, you're not going to get the same kind of plan, and you're not going to have the same kind of options. Everybody's interested in accountability. Everybody's interested in thinking about those processes. And in larger municipalities, you generally have a civilian oversight board. There, the conversation is about moving from civilian review, where maybe the civilian entity, like here in Albany, is just giving opinions, to civilian control of police discipline, where it's actually up to the civilian reviewers whether an officer is fired for misconduct. So, we also see conversations, again, about who responds to these crises. And some municipalities, like Ithaca, for example, do have very significant changes in the works. Ithaca's talking about disestablishing their police department and creating a department of public safety that has both armed and unarmed responders who will be dispatched according to the needs of the situation. I think a lot of municipalities, you're going to see that sort of experimenting with non-police responders, but police is one of the most embedded social services, the most difficult to change because it touches so many different institutions all at once.
You know, they've had a number of months to do this, the municipalities, but obviously when you look at the way that some police agencies have interacted with the communities of color, it's been that way for decades. Is it realistic to think that these communities can improve their relationship with these communities in, I guess it's not a short amount of time, but relative to before that? Can their relationship change just by doing this?
And that's one of the questions that, you'll hear a lot of activists say, it's great that we're talking about this now, but a 9-month window isn't going to solve, centuries worth of problems. And my sense is that if you ask people to create a brand new process, not using existing lawmaking processes, if you ask for them to bring new voices into the conversation, if you ask for them to think about things they're not expert on, you're taking up most of the 9 months just with that.
Right.
The big ideas themselves don't even start coming in until the last couple of weeks. So the better plans, to my eye, are the ones that say, here's how we're going to navigate these issues going forward. Here's the lasting structure for engagement with this issue. But what everybody's going to be watching, I think, is the governor's office after April 1st. What do they do with these plans? Thousands of pages. They say they're expecting 500. That's about how many police departments we have. Are they going to sit in a closet somewhere? Are they going to prompt another executive order that says, all right, now that we've learned from that process, here's what's next? How do we support and sustain this process of engagement that's started?
Yeah, this is obviously the start of what's going to be a very long conversation about police reform in New York State, far past April 1st and far past the year of 2021. But we have to leave it there. Ava Ayers, the director of the Government Law Center at Albany Law School. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me, Dan.